This conference will now be recorded.
I'd like to call the Board of Supervisors meeting to order. As always, let's start with the pledge and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. We do have a quorum. We do need to adopt an agenda. Anybody have anything to add? I do think we are going to add, and I assume this is where we're going, where you're going, is adding what 4 departments you want to do, Jonathan?
If you like, Mr. Chairman, if time allows, after your goals and priorities, it would be Board of Supervisors, County Administration, County Attorney, and Finance would be the 4 departments we'd like to review, if time allows today. I think this is scheduled from 3 to 6, so if you have time, it'll get you ahead of the budget schedule.
Might as well fill the fun times. Anybody else have anything? What would you like to do?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the agenda as amended.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Public comment. Come on up and talk to us, please, sir. And if you would, just give us your name and then go at it.
My name is John Foley. I live at 203 Turner Drive. I was talking to Alan in zoning. He suggested I come down and tell you what my concern was in the hope that you might bump it up to the Planning Commission for addressment. I'm actually here to talk about in the zoning regs 14.4.2, which addresses the special use permits and activities on a personal property. It allows a 15-time per year waiver to getting a permit. I have an objection to that only because I experienced it with my neighbor deciding that he wanted to hold weddings next door without a permit, and it became an issue of contention. I looked up the zoning regulations when I talked to the zoning people, and to me, it doesn't make a heck of a lot of sense that if you need a permit to do an activity, why is there an exemption to do it 15 times a year? I can see where you can apply for an exemption if it's a family wedding or something, great. But 15 times to me is excessive, and I would like to see that regulation struck so that it's just, if you want to do a special use, you get a permit. It's pretty black and white. Why are there 15 exemption? I know it has some history, but I think it just opens a can of worms for everybody. So that's my issue, and I was just hoping that you could bump it up to the people that actually addressed it. Any questions or anything?
Anybody have anything? We are the ones that address it.
Okay. I misunderstood.
If we want to go down the path with it, then what would happen, we would send it to the Planning Commission, to take under advisement, and then it would bounce to us with their recommendation, whether to change or not to change. And that's kind of what it is.
Okay, so other than me just speaking and making you aware of what I think, is there any process that I need to be aware of? Are you gonna come back to me and say yes, no, we're moving on, or is it just kinda, I leave it with you?
Anybody want to take this one and throw it at the planning commission? We've talked about it at length in the past.
Yeah, the history on this is, is under seasonal and brief. So you've got a lot of folks in the county that will be selling, vegetables and, excuse me, whatnot during the growing season, like in the summer. So, that's where it was derived. 15 times a year is, once a month. So, no, I'm fine with it.
Well, I mean, I think what you're mentioning
So
is
I'm not inclined to send it to.
under the section of by right. The ones I'm talking about are summer camps, travel trailers, general store, antique craft, animal showground, private park and playground. It goes on, and I'm just saying, those items are beyond having a farm stand. This is an event.
Well, I
where-
just pulled that as an
Okay,
example.
but I'm saying those things, I think if you look, farm winery is under a by right.
It is.
So I'm talking about the things that are special use only, that are already been highlighted as special use. And I'm saying if they've been already highlighted as special use, then get the permit. Don't give the exemption for something that's a special use. That's my point.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
No, that's about it. Thank you. Any other public comment? Other public comment? All right. And nothing's online. Starting the budget season, starting strong. Welcome, Ms. Graham and Tina. I guess let's start with your presentation or one of your handouts. And Chris, I mean, who wants to start? Where do you want to start, Ms. Graham? Do you want to start PowerPoint or do you want to start with your handouts? All right, that's fine. Fine.
Okay, thank you, and good afternoon. Well, like I was saying, we didn't bring a PowerPoint or anything, we just brought pretty much the bottom line, exactly what we need and why. Our budget is very basic this year. All ESSER spending is gone and done, that ended in September of this school year. Our All-in Virginia funding, which was the extra state funding, that is also gone. So any extra position or anything we had along the way for the past few years, those have all been eliminated or will be eliminated by the end of this school year. So what we bring to you is a budget that's going to reflect a drop in enrollment. Enrollment has been dropping steady. We brought a sheet for you. I'm sorry if I'm going to go back and forth between sheets, Jonathan, I apologize.
That's fine. I just scanned them in, so I'm not sure what order, so if you just kind of give us a idea and we'll put it on the screen.
Oh, I think we brought them it's just going to tell you the enrollment, 2007, 2008 at 1921, and then bringing you to this school year, 24, 25 at 1542. That is our teacher ratios. Go to the next. There you go. So that just gives you an idea of what we've been dealing with for the past many, many years, way before those of us sitting up here. But there has been a steady decline in enrollment, and we have been kicking the problem down the road as much as possible. We were able to put a Band-Aid on it through COVID because we were getting the extra money, so we were able to fund things and fund positions that we deem necessary. But along the way with funding, each year we've come to you with budget requests, and our full request always was to fund what we had. We were not fully funded in the past 6 years, 7 years that I've been here. And so we've always gone back and we've made cuts. Even through ESSER, we've made cuts. Even just since I've been here, we've cut 9 positions in the past 6 years. That's equaled $697,563 just to make our budget work, while giving raises and things to the folks that have been here. So our budget today, if you go back up to the first slide, And we can talk about any of this along the way that you'd like to talk about. It's a little crooked now, so up one more. That's CIP to the top. There we go. Enough, just stand on your heads. There we go. That's okay. There we go. Everyone has copies as well. So we'll go over what our requests are this year, and then we can talk about enrollment, we can talk about class size, whatever you guys would like to discuss. And again, our total bottom line number that we're requesting. So the first is we're requesting the pay increase, 3%. That's what's being recommended by both the governor's budget and then the House and the Senate. Both were putting in 3%. I think they were putting in 3% for county employees as well. And then we would like to, I don't know if you've been informed, but we're struggling to keep bus drivers, not because they don't like us, but because there were just so many things going on, different like illnesses and situations. So we did lose some bus drivers this year, but we would like to raise bus driver pay so we can be more competitive in the area. So we're requesting that one of the things, goals of the board is that we increase the starting pay for our CDL bus drivers to $20 an hour, which is still a little lower than some of our neighbors, but we think very well deserved and needed.
Can you tie numbers to these as we walk through them? Like, what's the 3% staff increase gonna cost? And then the adjustment for the 5 to 10, and then the adjusting the bus drivers up.
I think we just brought number one lumped all together, but
All right,
we can give
let's
you an
take whatever
idea.
you got.
The pay increase, the adjustments at 5 and 10, that's only, I think, like around 10,000. That's a pretty low number. We don't have very many people hitting those exact numbers this year. But then. And that's not included in this number? No, yeah.
What,
So the 3% salary increase.
For everyone.
yes, ma'am.
And this also, this number includes, how do I say, people that have left and come. So it's not just the people that we have now. We've taken some change in personnel into consideration. Okay, so just the salaries for everyone is 359, or right at 360,000. Benefits on that are 248,685, which is a total of about 608.
Thank you.
And then the 3.9% health insurance, we'd like to absorb that again for folks this year.
Your original was at 10, what's 3.9? What's the adjustment cost?
This includes the 3.9.
That was both together,
Oh,
I'm sorry,
all right.
wanted to.
This
together.
includes the 3.9.
Okay.
For the fringe that you just gave us.
It
Now, wait a
includes-
minute. The spreadsheet we're looking at where, you asked for the county for $1,340,045 more. That
Which has
has
changed.
10% in it.
Correct.
So when you go to 3.9, what's that gonna do to that?
The numbers I just read for salaries and benefits. Well, the total new number is at the bottom up there, 959,461.
Right.
That includes the 3.9% health insurance, and it also includes the 240,000 that looks like we will get in the General Assembly budget to eliminate the support cap.
Yeah, so we're not asking for over $1 million. It's 959,000.
Yeah,
Correct.
That's good.
Correct. We'll take
So-
anything we can get.
So,
So Mr. Yao, I think, wants to know the separated out for the benefits is the 248,685.
well, yeah, I like knowing that, but I would also, that would have been really cool to have a superintendent's recommended budget that has,
Well, that's
that-
changed since our school board meeting, so we just got that information last week. So I have not
so-
presented a new budget to the
so the
board.
process is you can't show it to us until they'll
We
they
haven't
approve
made,
it.
oh yeah, but we haven't made.
No, there is no
Well-
more budget. We
No.
haven't made one. We just got this.
Well, I'll
Right.
tell you what, for next year, we could take the superintendent's recommended budget and put it in Excel and have another column over here and saying, here are the changes that will be presented to the board, or we do it after the board votes, one or the other. So, I mean,
Bring it to
so
them
the
before we go.
$1,340,000 right now is going to what? I don't know that.
959, 461.
Right, on your handout that's up there.
At the bottom of your handout.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we've covered the pay increase and the health insurance increase at 3.9%. And then within our budget, you'll see some technology and security investments that we need to make. We're required to update our website. We have security camera licenses that have to be purchased. And then Wi-Fi controllers at all of our schools are needed. So those are reflected in the budget. They were talked about in CIP, but were moved to this budget. So you're aware of that
So
conversation.
are they, can we put numbers by those, Tina?
Yeah, there we go.
78,000,
For all three?
correct.
Okay.
And then throughout the budget, you'll just see the increase as everyone's experiencing everywhere, the increase in utilities, or we have some special ed increases, mulch, custodial supplies, those have all increased for us. And then the big one for us too, well, another big one is like I just started out with our decrease in enrollment. We are at 1540 now, and we're anticipating 1520 for next school year, which is 100 students fewer than our current budget, which is built on 1620. And that's where we are. So which direction would you like to go as far as questions?
Let's see, the go ahead. So, would you pull that, the HB 1600 and up, if you would? I just want to ask questions about this. VACO sent this out to us, and okay, I highlighted Madison. I got a couple questions, like FY '26 projected unadjusted ADM, that's average daily matriculation, is that what the matriculation?
They always.
They say 1494.6, and we're looking, you know, you've got 1520 in here. Where do they get that number?
I'm not actually sure. Do you know where they get it from?
I think they get it from Weldon Cooper, but I would not swear to that.
Okay, but they're basing numbers on 1494 at the state level, is that correct?
Our numbers that they've had on there have never matched what we end up having.
Right,
So
we've
it's,
never gone with them.
no,
It's lower than what we say, so we try to go
And
more
it usually
realistic.
is?
right.
All right, and, well, the composite index, that track, 4746, is what so you go over to FY '26 on column L, you've got, they've got 12,486,347. That is $164,000 higher than what is in your recommended budget at this point. I guess, so that is another change that you're working on, because this is the, you'll notice this one is the HB 1600, right? Or was that the SB? Look at the top.
That's the crossover.
Okay, that's HB. Well, SB, if you pull that up, is the same exact thing. I checked it. So they're both, those two are aligned. So I would say we're probably in pretty good shape there. But that's 12,486,000 is 164K higher than what you've got. So is that another good thing?
It's just, we estimate based on what we, it's just an estimate.
Okay,
So, I mean,
all right. And then estimated
Never met
total local share. Look at that, 8,194,837. Where in the world, where is that coming from? I mean,
That's
You've
what
got
the state comes up with each year on required local effort. And that's the number that that the county or the governing body has to come up with. If we get 12,000,004, then the governing body is supposed to come up with 8.1.
okay,
And that's
cool.
that's the minimum amount that is required. And I don't know of anybody in the state that does the minimum, but that's what
Yeah.
their documents show.
Okay, I was just curious as to these things. So with enrollment dropping, So you said something in the public hearing that night of the board meeting, Anna, that said, you know, just because enrollment drops, you explain it to the board, just because enrollment drops, we have a certain amount of fixed costs that we've got to
Correct.
cover. What would you say, what's your mix in fixed versus variable costs? I look at the budget and,
You mean like our ratio for it?
yeah,
or?
yeah, you got half of your budget of, let's just talk about what I'm looking at, 25,280,981. Half of it's fixed, half of it is
Talking salaries are variable or
Right.
not variable?
Yeah,
well,
depends.
salaries would be variable, yeah. Teachers' salaries would be variable. Because if you drop down to 150 kids, you only need 6 teachers. or
Right,
whatever,
but I don't know how you think sometimes, so that's why I'm asking the question. You and I
So-
don't think on the same way all the time,
So
so because our personnel costs are about 81, 82%,
and
roughly,
and
of the
teachers
100.
are 50% of it,
50% of that?
yeah,
I don't know.
it is.
Okay.
Okay,
guess that was-
so, all right, so you've got admin, so if we drop another 100 kids, Anna doesn't go anywhere, you don't go anywhere, right? Y'all's costs are fixed,
Correct.
okay? The schools, maintenance and all that stuff.
Right,
doesn't go
transportation,
anywhere.
all
Right.
facilities.
Transportation
right.
doesn't go anywhere
All
just
that.
because you only got a bus half full.
Right.
But the
It's the
teacher
whole
now,
economies of scale.
the teachers is going to fluctuate.
Right.
Based on enrollment.
Right.
Okay. So would it be fair to say 50% of the school board's budget is fixed?
That's the way you see it. I don't know if it'd be that high, but
I don't know how
But
you
the
think, so
teachers-
I don't
the
want to say,
teacher-
I don't want to say.
The teachers alone are, well, okay. The teachers alone are 50% of it.
I think there's
So-
more.
Yeah, I'm going through and looking at fixed versus variable costs, you know.
Right, because I mean,
and-
we're running 5 separate buildings and facilities. Like,
Right.
there are a lot of costs in
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
We
lot
don't get to
fixed.
operate under, right, correct,
I'm-
under one roof. If we operated under one roof, that would be
Granted.
a lot cheaper.
Where I'm
So.
going with this is,
I guess that's the question, where are you
I
going?
have no problem with us up here funding the fixed costs that we already have, plus the variable costs based on enrollment, okay? So when you go in and you drop from 1620 down to 1520, that's 100 kids. You can look at it one way, like 100 kids and 20 kids in a classroom, according to the average teacher stuff, that's 5 teachers right there. You know, now I know you're going to say that, you know, you might have 3 missing in this class and blah, 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 all that stuff,
Right.
but just, you know, simple math.
And it doesn't,
so it's-
also the high school goes into play. Because, you know, small school divisions, their class size at a high school is much smaller than your larger ones because we're trying to meet all the CTE needs and be a comprehensive high school. So.
Yeah. Oh, let's see. My number comes up with the county needing to fund $10,672,926, which is an increase of $351,851 over last year, which is 1.92 cents per hundred, using 183,000 as a penny. Okay. here.
Thank you. Handout.
You guys want one? Oh, yeah. 1, 2, 3. Give me a hand one to Gracie and Chuck. Okay. So, let's go through it, taking it from the top. And I put them in boxes so we could look at each box separately. So I looked at the variable costs. I used function 1,000 teachers' salaries, which was in FY '25 was $8,818,836, 42% fringe, So that's 3,000,007, and so the total is 12,000,005. The total budget was 25,111,583, so that means what's left is the fixed cost, okay? So that's $7,744 per variable cost per student using 1,620 kids. All right, we square so far? Okay, the next box, variable cost budgeted for FY '26, there's the same number, teacher salaries. Fringe has gone up a little bit, 4245. So I calculated the variable costs and the total cost per budget. And so there's the fixed cost, 12,333,124. And you can see they are pretty close to 50%. Okay, drop down the next box. So FY '26 budgeted fixed costs. I dropped that number down. Okay, I'm gonna start with that. 12,333,124. Then I'm gonna add some variable costs using last year's 7744 per kid, adding 3% and times 1,520 kids. So that's 12,124,389 for a total of 24,457,315. Now, where do we get the money from? You're getting 12,486,347 according to these HB things. Federal funds, 946, other funds, 351, and the funds needed from the county, 10,672,926.
I think, to be honest, I have no idea what you're talking about. I couldn't follow all that. Maybe next year we could get it ahead of time so we could study it.
Well,
That would be
yeah,
great.
I
Yeah,
have no idea
it's
what
not
you
fair.
said, honestly.
I mean, that kind of goes the other way, because he's working off of antiquated numbers on the 1 point.
Right, but we just got that in.
931.
Fair point.
I'm trying to run it against.
Well, exactly. Well, that's why, I need to know, we need.
But we just got that
We
in.
need a heads up
Give
on this
us-
stuff too. That's the reason I can't.
But technically, that's what this meeting is for, instead of a gotcha. This is technically the meeting for
So
that.
I can go through and change these numbers. I need to know what to change though,
So 351,851. So what programs are no longer important? I mean, really, bottom line, people are going to lose their jobs because that's the only place to cut. So what do we not want? Do we want larger class sizes in elementary school? Do you want your kids crowded in kindergarten? Do you want to cut our newest programs? So goodbye small engine repair. We just walked by there. They were doing a great job working on, learning some skills. Do you want to cut the fact that kids can graduate? Gosh, my own daughter, 33 college credits. I didn't have to pay. She skipped freshman year of college. So do we want to cut that? I have bottom lines. So the county, based on this budget, we're asking you to start funding each student at $7,641.79 a year. That's what we're asking for. That's $7,671.79 a year. That's what the local contribution would be for 1,520 students per year. I've looked up local private schools in the area. Some are a little less, most are way more. That's all we're asking for the county to do. The increase on the $959,461, when you divide that among our 1,520 students for next year, that's an increase of $631.22. So we're asking for an extra $3.51 per student per day for next year, for 180 school days. That's what we're asking for. And if we have to make cuts, when I told you that since I've been here, we've cut $697,000. We cut a director of administration position, a central office, a data specialist and director of testing position. So other people, those duties didn't go away. The state reports didn't go away. We absorbed them. We took them, other people started doing them. We cut our cosmetology program, a math interventionist at the primary school, an instructional coach at the high school, an occupational therapist, speech therapist, and a math teacher at the high school, and a PIO. Some of those positions we integrated into others, but those are actual positions that have been lost. So,
Yeah, well,
anyway.
and, with all
So
due
more-
respect, I don't go into doing this kind of analysis stuff to see how much I can cut out.
But that's what it equals. Like,
Huh?
we have to make cuts. Since I've been here, in total, you've given us $1.2 million, which has been great, but that's equal $200,000 a year if you average it out. And things are getting more expensive. You can see in the grocery store, things are more expensive. We've given teachers a 22% raise over time. We've covered over 40% increase in health insurance. And we've done that with only $1.2 million more from you all. So it's coming to a head of what we can afford.
Well, and that is a great point. It is coming to a head. And the general public needs to hear this stuff, and they need to weigh in on it. The public hearing at the school board meeting the other week, nobody was there and nobody talked.
We can't
And-
make them come, Cardi. Like,
I
there's no
know
one,
you
they
can't.
know you're talking to us today, nobody's here. My own people are here, because they're always at work.
Well, you should have been here Tuesday night. When we caught an earful Tuesday night. Okay? So they do come out.
What was that about?
Right.
The
You're gonna bring it up?
reassessment and,
Assessment.
you know, how much, I don't want my taxes going up. I don't want my taxes going up. Okay, well, I mean,
Then
and
no
I
one
come
does.
from a long line of educators. I mean, Waverly Yale is my grandfather, okay? So uncles, aunts, mom, everybody taught. I'm a public school advocate, but I've got to defend this.
Right.
And
But
I
that's
don't-
the question, then, what, like, things are gonna be cut?
Well, see,
We're
I
not gonna
don't
offer.
know. We don't have that
It's
kind
the
of
way it
detail.
works. No, and that's, our board's gonna have to decide that, what
Right,
programs
right.
get cut.
Right.
Well, I
But
mean, this is just my analysis. I
There
mean,
you
I've
go.
got
I got it a different way.
4 other
Right.
of my colleagues here that, this will all go into discussion, not just what I've come up with. There's other ways to do it too, like I say, 100 kids down, 80,000 per teacher, 5 times that is 400,000, plus the 164 from the state that's coming back to us, according to what these HB things. 564, then you got whatever the difference is in health insurance, that sort of thing. So, I mean, I can get to numbers and try to justify it different ways, but
Well,
that's just,
right, and I think we certainly understand what your job is,
Yeah,
and, you ran for your office, and so, you're dealing with what you ran for. We're with the school, and we're presenting to you what we think we need for the schools. And I'm not sitting here as a taxpayer giving my opinion on the assessment. That's a different hat, that's a different day. So we are here as the school,
okay.
trying to advocate for what we think the students need.
All right, let me tell you. So this 959 would be, nowadays, last year, it was worth 175,000 a penny. Now it's 183. So 959, 461 divided by 183,000 is 5.24 cents per hundred. We would go up 5.24 cents per hundred on real estate taxes.
Okay, we talk about that every year.
Yeah, we do.
did
That's-
happen to give you
something
back 1.5 million this year in the audit.
Okay, see, I don't know that yet.
No.
Well,
We were
that's not final, but it's in there. Also 250 on capital,
Okay.
and
The-
that is
Well, this
as
is
a
all good
result.
news.
Your rollover from the audit was how much?
1.5 million, is that right?
We weren't able to fill the
A million
positions 2 years
ninety-five
ago.
of it was from FY '23, and that was towards capital and the capital budget. And then this past year, FY '24, the rollover was around another $450,000.
Which we could choose to take
Yes.
it to operations instead of
Right.
capital. I
Certainly.
mean, it
And-
doesn't
and-
really matter. It's, we've got to add them.
And we
together
were
anyway.
expecting that, because if you remember when we came to talk to you, that was the year that was hard to fill positions, because, and that was left over. Because
Mm-hmm.
when we can't fill positions, we don't run around and just spend the money or whatever. We
Well,
give it
it's,
back.
I think it's obvious I don't have all the facts at this point.
I would just say, I think, I would just say from my perspective, I think this process could do done better. I think both sides. I would really recommend next year that we have a prior meeting beforehand, we exchange information, so that we don't do this in public where we don't have all the facts, et cetera.
We have to do it in public.
Well, no,
We-
no,
we
I'm
can
talking
do two
exchanging,
on two.
like this could be given ahead of time for them to analyze and understand, and we can give you facts and make sure the updated facts. I'm just saying, I think that sort of communication could be done better.
That's right. And same, Chris, on my side, I could have had some of this information ahead of time too, so I agree.
Well,
I agree.
I want to beg to differ on that because I worked all weekend, and I also do payroll, and people get paid every month at the end of the month. And we just got these numbers in. We just found out about our health insurance. And quite frankly, between the weekend finishing payroll and today, I did not have time to do another budget. So the only two changes that we know of are the 240 and the 3.9% increase. And we came with those figures to tell you what the difference was, which goes down to 959. We don't have anything else that changes. Now, if I can get a new budget, but, you know, we do have a school board in between us that needs to approve. And typically, in the past years, few years ago, we didn't come down here till our school board approved the superintendent's recommended budget, because they are the ones that can make changes to our budget. So we're kind of just recommending, and then we're gonna go, and when you all give us a number, if it's before our next school board meeting, Mrs. Graham will do another amended superintendent's budget, and it hadn't even gotten to the school board yet, and they haven't weighed in at all.
Right.
So the process is a little, but
Yeah, well-
if we can give you an updated budget, we certainly will. But, you know, and this is February too, so.
Yeah, last year, y'all were way down the list. I mean, we didn't talk to you guys until sometime towards the end of March, I think.
Correct.
So,
And that makes a difference too.
yeah, yeah.
And the General Assembly just finished on Saturday.
Right.
So we don't have our firm numbers yet, but we're going on the 240 and whatever else they might give. So,
Yeah, okay, fair enough. We got lessons learned here, Chris.
All right, who else has comments on this? Jim, please, go ahead.
This is from a broad strategic viewpoint. I'm going to address this to Chris, who's the chair of the school board. We're seeing decline in enrollments across the U.S. in public schools, and certainly in universities, because we're dealing with that enrollment cliff. And at some point in time, if the trends continue, which it looks like they're projected to continue to trend down, would the school board entertain the idea of seriously looking at a restructuring plan, which we are doing at university level, it's done in other school systems. Businesses obviously have to do it too when they lose customers. Thinking that perhaps we could get ahead of some of these problems that we're running into. Now, I don't know whether that's the answer, and I don't know how to do that. But I'm just throwing that idea out to the school board as if that's a possibility, if you would even consider that. Sure, I think we can consider everything. I think we're open to things. I mean, we're in our community, we understand financial realities for sure. I mean, it's like significant drop from 1920 to 1520. When I first saw that, I thought,
I homeschool my kids, you know, so I'm very aware of, many of my kids, my oldest son goes to high school, but I'm very aware of sort of the trends and stuff. But it's really not a growth in that. It's just a decline in population was the main driver of that number, and of the youth population in Madison County. That's what's really driving this primarily. So yes, I think we have to think about, and we may have to be creative about, I'm not sure exactly what you mean by restructuring. I mean, there's a lot of options out there probably. But yeah, I certainly think the school board's got to be trying to think ahead. It's a demographic issue. I think the average age in Madison County is like 48. You know, and that's old. That's a pretty elderly age when you think of the population. In terms of, I mean, if you look, and most societies have a younger age than that. So I don't know. I think we got yes. The answer, your short answer is yes.
normally, with restructuring, you start by your examining your long-term fixed costs. Because as we know, we have to spread out the student population over the total fixed costs. Variable costs are more flexible because, again, if you have a drop in enrollment, then you don't need as many teachers the next year. But again, I don't have the answer to that, but I'm just wondering if that wouldn't be beneficial to try to take a little bit longer range view. I'm also curious what happened to Fairfax County, because I believe they were looking at laying off 250 teachers. I don't know whether that ever happened, but Northern Virginia schools are facing a horrendous budget shortfall, and that's where all the money is. There's no easy answers, unfortunately.
All right, who else has stuff? Judd, Dustin, y'all got anything?
Just real quick, and because I'm kind of new at this, but so when we're looking at budgets, and as a business owner, we would look at places where we could cut. And so what places have you guys looked at, and what have you cut? So like food service, like I don't know what the food service looks like in Madison County. Is that a place you can bid back out, get a different food, ways of making that budget go down? I mean, are there other places you looked at and cut or potentially could cut?
Well, food services is its own entity, so operating money does not support food services.
Okay, does that come from the state?
Yes, state and federal,
Okay,
mostly federal.
okay.
So they have their own fund, their own program, and that, our director runs a really good program, so we don't have to worry about, the kids will be fed and,
Okay.
and that's self-sustaining. And we have looked at, we always look at positions, we always look at how many kids are in a classroom. We have we've cut a math specialist over the years, we've cut several, I'll say, extra positions.
It's really about all we have to cut is positions, just because of keeping up with 5 buildings, keeping up with those buildings, which runs into the CIP budget, of course, but.
Yeah, I mean, there's things like
This is
maintenance
right.
and other
Right.
things.
But we have a
Right.
list that I
Yeah.
wouldn't want to say publicly, but we have a list of, it's going to be detrimental, but we know the things that,
But even transportation, like we have a lot of buses that go out. Do we have, are the routes like,
they've actually
Down tight.
gone down. How many routes have they
Yeah,
shoot?
we don't
That's,
want
that's changed a lot this past year.
just
We-
optimize?
They've gone 6, probably we've lost 5 or 6 routes this year.
Yeah, just this
Because
year.
of population?
Because of no driver and combining buses. And bus
For
routes
population.
are fairly long now. And that's evolving, that's a daily thing. Because we had, in March, I think we had 3 bus drivers that left, for various reasons.
Right.
So you combine a route, and then we had issues when you combine a route that makes for uncomfortableness, and then you lose drivers because of the uncomfortableness, I'll say. So but that's about, I don't know that we could combine any more routes and have, no, but you're right, we look at that all the time, that's done daily, trust me. We are constantly looking at our maintenance contracts
yes.
and looking at them every year and getting better prices and see if we can move over here, and if we don't get what we want, then we'll shop around. We look for grants all the time. When over COVID, we didn't really know this number until we started working on some things to see what we've done since COVID. And we, Anna and I wrote $6 million worth of grants over COVID that we didn't have to.
And 1.4 was competitive that we got.
Right.
And then we have another $233,711 that we've gotten just recently in competitive grants that we write, and another a little over 100,000 out trying to get more money for CTE. So we just constantly are looking for money and grants and things to do that we can bring in some money for our programs.
Thank you.
All right, well, I guess I got something to say about that. Is that, so bus drivers, food service personnel, teachers, they're all direct cost, Okay, let's talk about the indirect cost, the administration. That is where, you know, you can look, I mean, I am an administrator. When I'm charged into federal and state contracts at Skyline Cap, I am administrator, and I am required to stay, like the Head Start, under 15% or under, as an example. For the state, I think it's 17, et cetera, et cetera. So I would take a hard look at that. I mean, how many administrators do you need at a primary school that's got 200 kids in it? I don't know, but I'm saying, if it was me, I'm not gonna cut my bus driver, but I might look at administration somehow, okay? So, that's all I got.
All right.
Well, we have, yes to that a long time ago. I would have thought, like when I started in education, you only had one person running an elementary school, about 300 kids. But things have changed over time in the 26 years I've been doing this. And behavior is different, needs are different, what we identify is different, meetings, IEP meetings, 504. It just pulls principals all the time now to where you have to have someone else there to get your meetings. We get, like when we keep saying SOQ positions, Tina and I pulled this the other day, we were like, it's a part of a document you hardly ever think to go to. But the state gives us funding, like little portions where they think we could have administrative positions, like, and they'll be like, they'll fund you like 0.2 of that or 0.1, or, you know, of their SOQ. It's so, their funding formula is so strange. But just like counting in like central office, 15 people, like secretaries and admin that do that. For our 15 people, the state thinks we have like over 25 doing that. Just where over the years before I got here, and then since I've been here, like cut. But when you cut, those duties don't go away. The reports don't go away. The things people are expected to do don't go away. So I feel like we're kind of at our tipping point for that too, and what else we can lose there, because who's gonna do it?
And where are the requirements for all these reports and stuff coming from?
Those are state reports. Some federal, a lot of federal funding too. Your title
Federal and
grants have
state
funding.
funding,
Yeah.
right. And I don't know, I don't have any instructional background, so I can't address that at all, but I would say, if you have one person in a building, you got a principal and an assistant principal sitting right there, and if she's gonna run a building by herself, she's probably gone from the county.
Right.
I don't know. But like I say, I can't address that because I've not been in a building as an instructional person, but,
Right.
yeah, I
Well,
don't know.
I use a data point. A friend of mine is a principal in Culpeper. She's got 800 kids, and she's got an assistant principal. Principal, assistant, 800 kids.
Right.
Well, it's kind of like my, no offense to have calling Tina out right now, but I don't know many directors of finance that are sitting around worrying about payroll either. Like, she runs our payroll, and she's doing all this stuff we have to do. And you're welcome to come job shadow anybody in central office to see all the different duties that people have going on there.
What about on the other side of this, looking at, we talk about positions and all, no conversation at all is being had about splitting like the health insurance increase. I know that's not popular, but we're trying to
I mean,
achieve some numbers that
we
come
have
up
to
with
do what we have to
something.
do.
I mean,
Right.
and everybody is gonna echo in the private sector, which is far different than the public sector. It's very rare that they absorb everything.
Right. It just ties into, you know.
And
like
what's,
we've talked
and
about.
with the 3% and the 3.9, what is the total benefit package on increase?
For us,
I mean, what does that equate to?
for us to cover, the 3.9% is gonna cost us like 95,000.
Do you have a total on what the increase per, it's hard to do because of people's enrollment in health insurance, isn't it? You know, that's pain. I think we've gotta be looking at some of these type of, we've gotta be looking at something. I mean, really do.
Well, I guess the good news at this point is a lot of dust has got to settle yet. The carryover funds needs to be, you know, I need to know exactly what that is, which I think you already know, but, and on the revenue side, we don't have any clue as to what that is for the whole county. Because, see, the reassessment values came out, and of course, by state code, this board's got to equalize that rate. So we got to take the rate down to equalize it, and then we got to do the calculations in. So we got one extra step this year. But
Right. And also, when I was, I'm not an audit expert at all, but I know you always talk to us about what a penny costs and going up on, on the real estate taxes. But there's also fund balance, and I know we need fund balance in the county, but there is unencumbered fund balance.
We're using that every year. I mean, we've done a beginning appropriation. I mean, we've used that for, heck, since Dan Campbell was here. And
Right.
That's been
Right.
8 years ago or something.
Right.
Um,
But I'm just saying for the schools, when we come down here, I don't hear anything about fund balance,
Oh, no.
unencumbered fund balance using for us. All I hear is, we're gonna go up so much on the real estate, so how dare you want us to go up on real estate?
I thought we used some of the fund balance last year
400.
for their CIP.
I thought we did a beginning appropriation of something like, what was our beginning appropriation last year from fund balance?
Are you talking about for the capital?
No, not capital, for operations.
Oh, it was like 1.2 for operating.
Yeah, 1.2 on operating. And we've been doing that for a long time. And that just plays to everybody budgeting and turning back in.
Right.
The side that we still have not talked about at all, is and I was looking at your ratio sheets, and I don't know what those tell you really, other than we have very, very, very good ratios. The other side of this is the capital side.
Right.
And the capital side's another,
Right.
just shy of $1 million.
Right, and I
That's
understand that.
big. I mean, we're
And-
talking
and,
big money here.
Mrs. Graham and I talked about that too, and we need a capital plan, we need to fix what we need to, but we need something in those buildings. And if capital has to suffer, we looked at capital. And if things have to be put to another year, we need people. So I understand that, we're not, if capital had to be cut down, then I certainly understand that. And we just had a meeting with, not a formal meeting, but Mr. Sheeds and Mr. Wingate, we were just looking at the track and the bleachers. And Mr. Sheeds is wanting to do a lot of that work himself or come up with a smaller investment than brand-new bleachers. And we talked about that before in CIP, so he saw that and is interested in doing that. So that's another factor we could go down.
Yeah, I think the CIP committee has worked through this stuff very well.
I think
Yeah.
and there's no negative with that at all.
Right,
I mean, it at
right.
least lets us be aware and kind of lets us start forecasting
Sure.
and planning out this stuff, but it's real money.
Right, and that's expensive, and I
very
know,
much.
right, right,
Yeah, and you guys, the whole committee has capitulated on some stuff that's, maybe we can push that for another year. Like all the windows at the admin building out there, that's gotta be done. You know, daggone it. I know it's not letting birds in, but
right,
that's about all.
right. And we got tape and stuff on them, but that's,
We're okay, it holds up.
when we look at it, that's us.
Right.
And we're here about kids.
Yep.
So if we need something for kids more than us, that's how we go, and
Yep.
so that's why you don't hear about the admin building or anything,
On House Bill 1600 final, is that the confirmed number?
I guess the governor hadn't.
Yeah,
approved
if he signs off, is that the number?
That looks like the House bill and Senate bill are exactly the same. That's the reason I checked
So,
both.
so
yeah.
with the drop from the 1.4 to the 959,461, the new total is 11,280,536 from the county total funds. then wouldn't we go ahead and subtract off, just to come up with bottom line on this, and what the actual ask is, subtract the 164,726, which is the discrepancy between the state funding that's presented versus the state funding in-house bill 1,600 pending the governor's approval?
Well,
Make-
some of the money in the House bill is not, like, some of the money in the House bill is state funds for food services. So when you look at, and I don't know what's in that number, but I know the paper that I get that has the number on it, there's some things that don't come to operating, so I have to back them out.
They also have $1,000 bonus in there that we're not sure where they're going with that, and that is in there. And one bill, I think it landed to be paid out in June, but we're
Either
not sure.
June or September.
Right.
So that might be in there too, and I can't remember how much money that was. But that was to award to all SOQ positions $1,000. That does not require a local match.
Right. So
And that either will be paid in June 1st or September 1st, which is another payroll, another separate payroll.
Yeah, but that's a
But we're
trap
waiting-
too.
Well, we're
Oh,
waiting,
that's
well,
like
we're
the
waiting, they're
worst
telling
trap.
us that from what we're hearing is that everyone, right, we can split it and divide
Right.
it, so it won't
right.
be $1,000, it'll be
Yeah,
whatever
so
we
Right.
got, put it in the pot
TPP,
and hand it
500
out.
each.
Right, right.
Because we can't match that at all. We
Right,
don't
and
expect
we're
that.
not, that's
We're
why
not
we didn't
asking
bring
for
that up,
Nope.
because,
It's just if it happens, it happens, and we'll. go
right,
that
it's
way.
no required local match, and it is what it is, because we can, and we weren't gonna go down the SOQ route, because some folks are SOQ and some are not. So you
Including
don't, you can't
teachers.
do that either.
Yeah.
So that number might be in there.
I think it is, and I think that's what the difference is. I was thinking
Yeah.
about that, but didn't want to go back to it. Because it is in there. It's under.
Because they put out a lot of different sheets like this, what they're doing, and you gotta, that's a number, but what's the detail? What is behind it?
Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
right.
It should,
$4,000 question
Right.
always.
it should be in that. I think it was the Senate. It's either going to show up in the House or the Senate, because one of them was June. I can't remember who was June and who was September
Well,
for
both
it.
of these bills are exactly the same.
Yeah, so.
So it's probably,
It's
it's
just
gotta be in there.
in
then,
there,
'cause they both
yeah.
agreed on it. The only thing they didn't agree on was the timing.
Well,
Whether it
unless they really did land on June, because then it won't be in 26, it'll be in the 25, so that's why we're not seeing it.
Well,
I don't know.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
The
know.
bonus thing, let's get rid of that.
Yeah.
But we
Let's
don't
just
need to worry
make
about
the-
it. It's if we get it, we're just dividing it up. We're not gonna use any local money for it. It'll just be whatever.
I mean, it really looks like your total figure, if we work off of that number, is $11,115,000, 810. So we're talking between parties' proposed number of 10,672, 926, we're 442K, or 443K off.
Yeah.
It's not as bad.
No, yeah.
It's not
We'll see
good,
what
but it's
revenue
not
does.
bad. I mean, good gosh. I mean, and then we've got to figure out the capital side, which at least we all are aware of the issues.
exactly
And it is very constructive. All right, what else do we have for the schools? What else do we have for the schools back here?
I just want to make sure I'm tracking, so we've got the capital in
Oh,
front
yeah,
of us.
I mean, we've talked
We
about,
won't
we've talked about all these capital items at, just to the maximum extent. All of these seem very warranted. They have been knocked down pretty heavily, all the way through. That's just kind of where we're at on capital items that need to be addressed.
Mr. Chairman, if I may
Please.
add to that. I know we'll have to go back through and compare notes on carryover. That's certainly going to be important. Also, go back and see how that factors in. The Waverly Yale Elementary School project is underway, but I think, and I'm going off memory, I think there was about $300,000 that the board will need to commit in FY '26 budget to make that project whole. So I don't know how that will factor in the bottom number, but there is a portion that will have to be added to FY '26 to make that project whole. I think it was around 300, was it 326 or something like that, that we were short? And that's where we talked about project timelines, when will it start, when will it be delivered? So we technically could defer
We put the whole project on this sheet, Jonathan.
the 1.7.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
1.7 is all
So
of
it's
that.
in that?
It's in that, but I'm just saying there's a portion that's gonna be covered. Or any of those payments gonna be made this year?
I think it was all moved
but we'll-
to the beginning of FY '26.
All right,
was
then
the
that
one
number
we'll
should
check.
stay all in
Yeah,
FY.
but
We'll
we
just
can
have to
check on
carry
that.
that part over and remember there's a
Yeah,
portion.
We'll encumber and enroll it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Dr. Timmons, you got the answer for that?
Yes, sir. No application for payment will be made until July.
Yeah,
There we go.
that-
So,
that-
so the whole
yeah,
1.7
convey
stays.
that.
That's
Yeah.
all right. You said that before.
Yeah, so
So it's all on
we'll
there?
carry a part of FY '25, or carry all that FY '25 over, but still need to keep it whole, we'll have to put some money to it in FY '26.
Well, maybe we're making a little progress here.
I don't know, the total number is $2.7 million, 2.75.
Well, then you have
So, we can do some.
Right,
I
with all
mean,
the
that's not
carryover
rocket
though.
science, too.
Right.
Still need $1 million.
When we walk
But there's
in
things
here,
that can be
Yeah,
moved.
that's correct. I don't see a whole lot of things we can cut from capital. We've stripped it pretty
we
hard.
push stuff forward,
The,
stripped.
I mean, they're not doing, the one that I think is the weirdest of them, the track deal, and that's $300K just to redo that. We've pushed it out, and they've decided to cancel the one track meet a year that we have, which seems like a good decision. I mean, just the means don't justify the cost.
It's actually, we're hosting it at Greene County.
Yeah, that's-
So we're
it's
still,
not
it's still
here.
our track meet, it's just there.
That's fine. Good. Let's roll some numbers, see what the state throws out. It's good to see that the health insurance has dropped from 10%
great.
projected to 3.9. We go from there. Start running them and we see where we get with some revenue. It's good to start seeing some of the carryover funds and from the audit come into play. We certainly will need them. And that's what it is. Sorry, y'all go first. Just
Any
what
other
it
questions?
is.
I do want,
Jonathan also provided the timeline. This meeting is always going to be contentious. It's just what it is.
Oh, I didn't think it was.
Everybody's, yeah, it is. It's just what it is.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I did want to mention to Anna and Tina that next board meeting, on the 11th, David Foley is going to be coming and reading out the audit report, in case you're interested.
Thank you.
Mr. Wingate, I don't know, maybe it's my presentation, maybe I'm too much like my grandfather, who used to lecture us all the time. So perhaps my presentation sounds more like a lecture. But again, I mean, I've got an accounting background. I love doing, crunching the numbers and seeing what makes sense and seeing what I can justify, to our constituents, so.
$3.51 a day per kid. That's all we need.
I'll search the world over and see who will do that for us, everybody. So that is, by the way, the 5.24 cents is a 7% increase in your real estate taxes. Okay, 7%. Just to,
It's a lot of money. Thank y'all. What's the question, Chuck? Got it. There you go. All right, Jonathan, talk to us about goals and priorities.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jennifer's going to bring up the FY '25. I've kind of lit off that way year over year. That way you can see how we're tracking what the board adopted as their goals last year. And then if there's anything remaining that needs to carry over, and if the board wishes to add additional goals. So up on the screen, and I have handouts too if you want that in paper. Let's walk through them real quickly of FY '25. Improve access to broadband services. I recommend we keep that moving forward. I will say, this county should be proud of themselves. There's several copies. I'm happy to walk them down.
Keep going.
So we are ahead of counties like Fauquier, Culpeper. Please don't print that because we're not rubbing that in. You know, we're just happy we're ahead. But it's going to take some time to deliver. Like when Brightspeed, it's reverted back to Firefly. You know, that's going to be built out probably this year. The VATI 2024 monies, that's going to cover that northern part of the county to include Etland. That'll probably be some of that last territory. So we'll be getting updates, but I would keep that going. What's good news is, and I'm not going to steal the thunder of Supervisor Jewett, there's going to be some survey. There's a lot of information he's compiled together, feedback from our business community, and broadband was a need. A lot of time you think infrastructure, water, and sewer, but broadband is that. So good goal. I would keep it there until you see it through, but that's the board's decision. That's my recommendation for the board. Number 2, complete major capital projects. Public safety radio system is pretty much coming to an end if it hasn't already. Okay. I think we're programming things. He's saving some money. I think every one of those units he was doing for cars the other day, it looked like an old Radio Shack store. But I think he's saving like $800 a unit by programming it in-house. So thank you, Mr. Gordon. EMS renovation, we've got the temporary occupancy on that, and we're working through punch list items. So I'd recommend for FY '26 taking that off the board. Hoover Ridge Outdoor Recreation Center, we had that up TBD because we weren't sure at bids and all that at the time. That notice to proceed has been given, and that should be done in calendar year 2025, but certainly would run into FY '26 budget. So it would make sense as a recommendation to ask the board to leave it there. Number 3, I am going to ask for any input specifically from our 2 supervisors that are on the Economic Development Committee. We're in the middle, making some good progress to see how you 2 gentlemen, Supervisors Jewett and Buchanan, may feel that we have either reached or continue to working on 3A, B, and C.
Go ahead, gentlemen.
The Economic Development Committee met prior to this meeting. And apologize for being 1 week behind, but I had to miss last week's meeting, to be honest. We will have the review draft for you by the first of the week. And want the supervisors to look at it, comment back, and then we'll make the changes in the formal submission. So it'll be in the supervisors to decide when we want to do a public hearing or whatnot, how we want to move forward. We did have a survey, business survey. It was good. It was revealing. We had some good participation. We're coming up with some recommendations for the county. Obviously, we've got a challenge with revenue. And how we're going to address that long term is how it's going to be determined how that plan is implemented. When we do the presentation to the board, or the board has a public hearing, what we're looking at right now is to start or pursue one of our recommendations immediately, which is already in process. Tracy Gardner's already doing it. But probably what we're going to ask is for the board, for the Economic Development Committee's first executable task is to start enhancing our site development process in the county. We've got some other recommendations that are coming down from that, but we're really close, and I think it gives us a really good starting point, because as we can see, our revenue needs are not going down, and we have to increase our tax base somehow. Else we're going to have, I dread the thought of having to raise taxes. I mean, it's the last resort for me, because it is everybody, I know that. But we're making really good progress, Mr. Chairman, and I think that's a good start. Judd, do you have anything to chime in on that?
Just the fact that Jim has really spearheaded this, and we have a good team in place, and we've come up with some a good plan. And with the board's help, once we submit this to the board, I think things will just continue to keep moving at a better speed than it was.
So, and thank you, gentlemen. So what I guess I would ask the whole board, you can see 3A, B, and C, maybe leaving that on, or if we want to streamline and rename or whatever, but keeping that as a continuum.
Wouldn't on economic development with your pending report coming out so quickly, I really want to ask, other than like we did with the cameras, what the public hearing actually is. Are we looking to do a public hearing to adopt the plan?
I'm just suggesting that we have one to explain.
That's, all right,
Informational.
that's what I was looking. Why don't we go, and if your report's coming out so promptly, even prior to public hearing or any of that, I think we can curtail, potentially A, B, and C on economic development. My next question to everybody is gonna be, who has goals they wanna shoot at? I think economic development needs to stay on there. Anybody have any goals they're looking for?
I've got one under number 2, but
What,
we're still talking about.
Nah, go, what's your goal? What
My
goal?
goal for number 2, and I don't know,
Good.
think about it. I would like to see a plan and a schedule for the sewer expansion by 6/30/26, and then completion by December of '27.
I think that one's a big one. We should make that its own category. It needs its own number. No, you can't subcategory that.
I mean,
That's huge.
I think that's, I don't think that is out of line.
And to chime in what you're saying, we discussed this afternoon.
Oh, yeah?
We're actually gonna contact our 2 RSA representatives and find out where they're going with this and how we as a planning would like to push them along if that's possible.
Cardi's actually hit the timeline that's been presented through RSA already. And at this point, it appears that with our membership, they're trying to start verbally, get easements for the sewer treatment plant going down to, the Robinson River. And that is very early on. The statement that Tim has made from RSA at this point, is 27 is when completion should be there. I think that is, I'm sorry, I don't care who I think that is very, very optimistic at the rate that things move. I think putting it in there, but I think that needs to be number 4. It is such a big thing for Madison County, and it's too large of an item that affects too many things, that it's not just a regular capital
So
goal.
it'd be, number 4 could be, utilities or something?
I would say sewer and water, sewer and public water upgrades.
And one of the, part of the conversation too, and I know we talked about this, is and try to consult with RSA to determine the best way to handle the increased sewer capacity in such a way that it supports our comprehensive plan and our goals. And that should be part of that conversation.
Wouldn't-
Where that'll lead to, I don't know, but.
Wouldn't it be, I think, now we're developing things, good Lord. Call number 4, public utilities. Put A and B as sewer and water treatment. Even though dates have been placed on them, I think we should try to hold them to those dates. And then underneath, let's say that A would be your sewer treatment. I think under that subcategory, it would be the, how to deal with disbursement of the EDUs that would become available based on the addition.
Not a commodity.
That is right.
Yeah, I mean, I would be happy to see a plan and a schedule by 6/30/26. That's.
Oh,
what,
that's better.
12, 15, that's
Yeah.
By the end of FY '26, a plan and a schedule. And then you got a year and a half to get it built.
On both sides, water and sewer, or just on sewer?
I was just talking about the sewer.
All right,
but-
so we're gonna say, number 4 is public utility. A, we're gonna call sewer. I think I don't know, what are we doing now, but, we'll go into Roman numerals. 1 would be a plan by end of FY '26.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
Let's go Roman numeral 2 is, EDU allocations or availability plan?
Yeah, the process of assigning EDUs or something like that.
Yeah, it'll be your service connection and service area policies.
That's what it's called?
But it's for, or policy and procedures, but that's an RSA thing, but you and I have talked about this before, and I
That's
share with
true.
Mr. Jewett, is why we talked about our RSA members. It's just pushing
What's
that.
Say that
Yeah,
again?
Say
It's
it.
service connection and service area policies, or policy and procedures. That basically says, where's your service area you're looking to serve it, which hopefully would match your comprehensive plan, your developed area, and who could connect, how far away from the line, or if you have a failing system, you're mandated within that area. All those things are covered in
Does
that
that keep me
policy.
from going in and buying 20 of them?
No,
Correct.
see, that's what.
That policy would.
Okay.
You would have to have an engineering drawing, not a napkin, I think I'm gonna do this.
Oh.
Because a Dollar General is one tap, a hospital may be 30.
Jonathan's terminology on Roman numeral 2 is good. I think that we should start that by some kind of phrasing about, since it will be just brushed over, is EDU, some kind of better terminology than what I have is EDU availability plan, or disbursement plan or something. That cannot be forgotten in the weeds. We think about it, we have members on our RSA, they certainly represent us in the right way. We need to be pushing on them, which they have no issue doing, and are doing currently. But we need to be pushing on getting a plan, because we've gone down this path already, and it just keeps getting, oh, we're gonna work on it sometime. That's unacceptable. All right.
Can I ask a clarification question, just for public too, but for me, EDUs are a commodity, or have been a commodity. So I could buy up 20 of them and then sell them off to people if I wanted to, if they needed them?
No, you have to sell them, they are that's good. Supposedly, they are tied to specific tracts of property.
Okay.
And then, with that, supposedly, you can only sell them back to RSA.
For what you paid for.
Yes. We know about, and I think that we have to get ahead of this, not on the basis of like a hospital getting 30 of them, because I don't see a hospital coming, but we do know that there is development planned on Fishback Road that will be coming to us, and we'll go through the whole process, and everything will be transparent beyond belief. But we do want to protect just every EDU being sucked up immediately by developers. And then we know that there are some people that own land right now that would love to be able to buy one of them. We've also been told for years that there are no EDUs available. Turns out they've sold several of them. It's not a dozen, but it is a handful of
So
them.
it's between RSA and the developer, or the person that needs it, that's what's sold. Could the county own those from RSA, we could get them from RSA or not? Or is that not okay?
Jonathan?
So it's similar, so we would follow the same policy they have now, like we have, don't quote me on this, I'd have to go through their books, but I think anywhere from 14 to 16 EDUs at Hoover Ridge, because we bought that property, we thought we were gonna build schools and other things. So those EDUs are tied to that property. You're not supposed to horse trade. To Clay's point, if you don't need them, decide you don't need them or don't want them, you'd sell them back to RSA for the value you paid. And then they would have that amount of capacity available to resell to someone else. But what they're saying at this time is that they don't have any capacity remaining at their existing treatment plant.
Yes, but they have sold some. So there you go.
All right, thank you, I just wanted that clear.
What you got, Dustin?
Forgive me for being simple-minded, but allocation, the definition is action of process of allocating or distributing something. EDU allocation
Yeah,
policy.
that's
Done.
fine. That's fine. I think it should be EDU allocation policy, and then it should be what Jonathan said, which is service connections, and service policy and procedures, something to that effect. He'll clean it up and make it look professional. I think number 3 on that list needs to be sewer plant completion. I think that's just where we're at on that one.
What's the difference with 1 and 3? Forgive my ignorance. So
The number
3, you're
one,
saying sewer plant completion.
number 1 is a plan, by FY '26, and I know they say they have a plan, and that has
Should
its own.
include a schedule.
Yes, or a plan. We need to be kept apprised of this.
And then C, or excuse me, 3, Roman numeral 3
yeah.
is sewer plant completion.
Yes.
You want to know that date, or, okay. Okay.
What other items do we have on here that we need to hit? I think we'll curtail number 3 pending the plan or the report that comes out.
Right, because it's really tied in.
Yeah, do you see, I would think that you'll see some of those amend and change a little bit, just based on terminology and the facts that you all have found. Is that accurate? What do y'all want to do what do you want to add to this? Anything else? Jonathan called me last night on this, and thinking about adding stuff. With the climate of finances right now, I think our main goal should be keeping taxes low and try to figure out how to increase revenue, without going on the backs of the taxpayers. That needs to be without expanding the footprint of government. I think that needs to be that should certainly be our number one goal all the time.
And we're continuously exploring possibilities, some of which may or may not be palatable to citizens. For example, Jed and I have a conference call with Loudoun County tomorrow, and investigating various types of data centers that we could put in that would be possible now with the infrastructure that we have. Again, we're exploratory. We're not gonna put data centers in 2 months from now, and the pitchforks come out. But we have to, and we're not gonna be loud in town.
No,
We're trying to find something to help us out.
you've got to have the we went down. We had the first kind of the initial talk yesterday about Kriglersville and them asking for this economic development money from DHCD, not from the county. The comment came out of that, and we all know we were talking about the administrative side of this. And our comment yesterday, talking to DHCD, was what are the localities that operated this themselves and which ones have not operated them themselves. And my comment to Jonathan, you need to reach out to these people, see what they have to say about it, because they know the process. It's an easy thing to make a couple phone calls and have a meeting on things. Anybody want to add another main item? I think that's pretty good. We can add, this is easy, this floats, we can add at any given time. That's fair. You want to add B as expansion of water lines? What's the right terminology of
Well,
that, Jonathan?
Can I make a friendly suggestion?
Sure.
Looking at water?
Sure.
Can we just make, A1, Roman numeral 1, sewer and water infrastructure plan by end of FY '26?
Sure.
So you're covering both?
Sure.
All right. I'm hoping, I don't want to pay for any expansion of the water lines. I want that.
That needs to be private. Oh, it should be.
But that's just me. I don't.
And fortunately, we're still finding new ones we didn't know we had. So, I mean, how things work out in a funny way.
Have you ever considered having developers put in their own private septic or sewer system?
That's an option.
I know where my sister used to live, they had individual septic until the water quality got so bad. And they made the developer put in a separate field and run their sewer for all the additional houses. And they have to maintain that to county standards and
State standards, state and federal.
Yeah.
Culpeper's got a bunch.
Well,
Our ordinances got
I think Fishback in particular, if it's far enough away that it's cost prohibitive to run or to expand, and that way you don't get
We-
into all the proper type stuff in terms of trying to
No.
expand the public utility,
None of those,
let them do it.
I think everybody, it's a good comment, Mr. Kirby. None of these cases have come in front of us yet. And they've come in front of the, whatever, Jonathan and Cardi.
PDRC.
Yeah, that stupid name. Whatever, whatever that
long as
is,
you don't say-
it's come in front of them, they've gone and they've asked for an impact study, I understand at this point, and it's a great committee, great. There's nothing negative about that in any
Except for
way.
the name.
Yeah, the name is terrible. Everything they do by bringing everybody to the table is just, and it's from big to small, just all positive. And getting, it's just, I can't say anything bad about it. It's come to them, they've gone back, but the conversation has been had. There are lots of options out there to accommodate that, and that's certainly one. Cardi's going down the path saying get developers to do it, which is certainly another option. And I think it's just one of those ones trying to figuring it out. Yes, sir.
We have,
Yeah, we have ordinances, Mr. Kirby, that will guide that based on the number of houses they're looking to develop. But it is a possibility. In some cases, that private or HOA or whatever would maintain that. In a lot of cases, our ordinance say, build it to standards and RSA would take it over. But we have plenty of pocket neighborhoods, I'll call them, that 15 houses or less that have community wells, but private septic. So, just depends on what they want to develop, how it aligns with our ordinance. But good point.
The other one on public water or public sewer is, it's always been conveyed is that if the county wants upgraded system, then it will cost to give RSA $20 million and they will build it. Turns out the USDA puts out massive amounts of funds to upgrade these systems, and there is a very, very, very high probability that some of those funds will be able to be used to offset any kind of cost from locality. Jonathan, is that fair?
That's fair.
There you go. I think it is USDA, yeah. And we've
They
heard,
usually base it on household median income kind of data.
and it's big percentages. Anybody else got anything on goals and priorities? I don't see how we could. All right,
Good, and we just have to pick a few and really get them done.
I agree with them.
Just having 20 and,
Yeah, exactly, just a list.
yeah.
That's it. Y'all have any goals and priorities that you want to shoot towards the list?
These seem like great goals and objectives.
Oh, good.
I do subscribe to Mr. It's no good to having 20, just concentrate on what fits your mission and we'll execute.
All right, let's start running through the additions to the budget, or to the agenda. Let's go Board of Supervisors first. I assume you want to work off this big sheet, Jonathan?
Yes.
There you go.
You said Board of Supervisors?
Yeah, do Board of Supervisors.
where is that sheet? Is it,
It's not, I don't think.
It's in your,
Is it on the OneDrive?
I found it in Kim's file,
Alright.
so it should be in your OneDrive.
And it's a printout, 11 by 17 printout.
They have that, I believe.
It's the very top one in your printout.
It's also here, Cardi.
am I supposed to come get one? Is that what it is?
No, you have it. They handed it out. It should be on. Oh, no. Here, you have this one. I'll grab it.
I did something else.
Oh, it was up there. It was up hot, Cardi. That's what it was. I'm glad to see us hiding information from you is working. Let's do Board of Supervisors, Jonathan.
All right, so, we did not add the COLA in. You all determine your salaries. I will say, as you get through all departments, based on the state's biennium budget, that's the one that's active, not what the governor hasn't acted upon yet, there's 3% COLA. Now, generally, those COLAs touch compensation or comp board employees. You've heard a school talk about SOQ, standard of quality teachers. This is every year what happens. If they make an adjustment on that, I always give the prime example, you have dispatch. 5 of those dispatch positions are constitutional officers that are tied to the sheriff. We have an agreement that those 5 are part of our dispatch operations. So you give that 3% to a dispatcher, the 5, and the other 7 or 8 not. So we applied that method of 3% across the board. For the Board of Supervisors, we have not plugged that in at this time. We certainly can do that. You speak to your own salaries. Moving along, FICA is based off all those, the salary calculations. FICA is derived from that, so that hasn't changed, that there's no change in salary. Moving down to lodging, Lodging and meals and seminars tuitions kind of go hand in hand. Not a lot of you go to many meetings and you meet with state people and all there. So a lot of times you may not want or need to go off to Homestead or some of these other meetings. I did take it down slightly just based on historical, so from 5,000 to 4,500 for both lodging and meals and seminars and tuitions. The miscellaneous, that looks like that appears to be the same. So overall, your budget's down, what is that, 2%?
I don't see any reason to adjust salaries in any way. I just don't think it's there. What do you say down there?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
You have other cuts to this budget?
No, I do want to ask, so Jennifer, so the FICA, do you use the 7.65 or it's less than that as it works out because you have deductions for insurances and all that stuff, so. But you use 7.65?
We use the 7.65, yes.
Okay, so that's. Okay.
All right, anybody
right,
got
moving on.
anything on Board of Supervisors? Let's go county attorney next.
All right. So county attorney, you have the attorney, we'll say primary attorney, hand and right. Then you have assistant county attorney as a part-time basis is Mr. Gregg. So those are going to be shown in two different areas, so I'm going to try to cover those. So your first salary and wages full-time line item, that is Mr. Gregg. Again, he is a contract employee, so that COLA, if you want to plug it in, we can do that. Right now, we left it no change. I know Mr. Gregg is big on the insurance side, and we'll get to that momentarily. But the salary change, Jennifer, you want to explain, though, there was a slight drop in that. That could be in a calculation.
Yeah, last year, when we developed the budget, we assumed a 3% increase for him, and he did not take that 3% increase.
Yeah, thank you for that. Sean's always been big on, instead of the extra there, if you can keep his health care whole, that's where his main focus is. So I'll move along unless you have any questions. Health insurance, there's a slight increase there. Moving on, go ahead.
I'll mention last year, Mr. Gregg stated that he would pay additional for his insurance. So I put in the budget based on him paying more and the county paying less for his insurance. That's why the number for FY '25 budget went from 10,000 down to 5190, because he made that offer, but then we did not take him up on that offer and change his health insurance. So that's the reason for the difference in the 2 years.
Thank you. Legal services, so that you can see varies year to year. Hopefully, we don't get any court battles, but that's where that money comes from. If it's any outside of the normal things, Hannon and/or Sean Gregg, they handle not only your normal procedural meetings, whether it's planning commission or board of supervisors, but any violations or citations that may come through zoning or other things like that. County legal represents us on those. If it's outside of their norm, which we've had a couple of those, that's what that line item is for. As well, if you get to where we need to pull additional funds for outside representation, that is not our own legal. And I think we've done that on a past zoning case a couple of years ago. So I believe we've left that static as last year, but I wanted to explain what those funds are for. Attorney and consultant fees, that's really, I don't know if we want to reword that or not, but that's straight Hannon's salary, and adding a 3% COLA there, but that too is at the discretion of the Board of Supervisors. That's why I'm making you aware that I put that in there, but I'm not the deciding factor. I'm just merely clarifying why that number is up 3%. Moving along, books and subscriptions, we just looked at some of the historicals, and just, took that to $825 based on where he's at year to date. Small increase, I think it's $15, even though it shows 2%. So overall, the county attorney budget went up, is that 6%? So essentially, a little over $7,000 most of which would be that COLA and any insurance.
73.25.
What's that?
73.25.
Yeah.
Difference. Anybody got any issue with that one? I don't. Let's go to county admin.
All right, on the county admin side, and again, I'll say this, each department budget, when they come, the 3% COLA is in there. Again, that's at the board's decision. That's just based on comp board, non-comp board employees and what you've done over the last 2 or 3 years, probably even longer than that. So that 3%'s there, so naturally that's gonna, raise the numbers. Part-time, we keep a $2,000 line item in there. I think that 1 year that you saw a jump at 10,000, I think that's several years ago. That was in between the Miss Fry and Allen Berry years. But since then, it's been pretty static. That allows us, if Miss Turner happens to be out or really towards the end of the year, if we stow that money away, I like doing some scanning of records. If you've ever been in my office or the file cabinets in Kim, we're trying to digitize those files. So we keep a little bit of money there. If it's there and no one else needs it, that they're not in the red per se, then we'll, try to plan around May or something like that. Hey, can we get Suzanne Long or whoever's available to do some scanning, who's done it in the past. Overtime, I actually took that down 25%. Brian and I are salary, so overtime would really be for Kim, if for whatever circumstances. But we haven't really had much of it, so that's why I took it down $500 from last year's number we plugged in. No leave payout. Hope you keep us around, so that stays 0, but no increase there. FICA, again, you just heard Jennifer talk about how that's calculated. VRS, I am not sure the decrease, Jennifer, VRS.
Everybody falls into a different part of VRS plan, different plans, so it's just where each of you guys are, so.
Okay, so that would explain down on the one and up on the
Yes,
hybrid.
exactly.
Virginia Retirement System. It's the pension plan for your staff, which is in the Virginia Retirement System. And then depending on what year when you were hired in, Mr. Buchanan, they have certain, what's that?
They have certain types of plans.
Yeah, certain type of plans and what employees should it be paying and so forth. Moving along, let's go down to health insurance. What was the note there? So some of these things you're gonna see, when Deputy County Administrator position was created and Mr. Gordon was hired, that came in at a half year. So some of that's just catching a full year this time around. The health insurance also includes the 3.9% increase. So I'm not putting that all on Brian. That's a 3.9% increase to the 3 members of the administrative wing. But that's the increase primarily. Any questions?
You said the 3.9, the school got 3.9, we got 3.9?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
All
sir.
right, very good.
And for us, the difference is $70,000 increase for the county, for all staff.
Thank you.
So, thank you for that. So just like the chairman said, for the school board, you'll have to make your decision. We can send you around, Tilly and Jennifer even, kind of, worked some numbers around again to make it a little easier to view. She can send you that spreadsheet so you can kind of look at what does 100% look like, what does these percentages look like. Right now, we have the full assumption of it, but we don't make that decision. You all do. So just being transparent, that number's in there, 3.9, but Jennifer can share that spreadsheet that shows it at different intervals, and you all can make your decision, and we would plug that in for all departments accordingly. Good catch, Jennifer. Group life insurance, all that's based on enrollment and so forth. Let's get into the meat and potatoes. You go down repairs and maintenance. The reason why that number is so large, this will be our first year of our maintenance contract for our radio project, correct, Mr. Gordon? which we've talked about this the last couple years, that, hey, get ready for this. This is gonna start, and I think it's a 15-year thing, correct, Mr. Gordon?
Correct. Next November, we cut over our radio system in November 19th of last fall. So next November will be the first year post our maintenance period, warranty period, excuse me. So maintenance on the SUA and monitoring and maintenance services will come due.
So if you look at, thank you, Brian, if you look at the notes that come along with it, again, the biggest jump, the 261,777 is the bulk of that 313 number, and that's for the annual maintenance. There is a 3% escalation in that. And there's additional, a little over 15,000 for additional add-on services. And then a one-time cost of some consoles. I think the sheriff needed 3 for some new vehicles he has requested for FY '26 when you get to his budget. So major bulk of that is for radio maintenance.
I'm gonna add something to that, Mr. Weekly.
Yes.
The 15,000 is for a rainy day fund, if you will. If we have to replace items here, there, whatever. If it's an emergency cost, emergency maintenance cost, there are some travel charges involved in that. That's a 6% is a carve out of that in 266. The other items are completely contingent on if the board approves radios for new vehicles, so on and so forth. What I am working on now, those will kind of be a one-time thing. The idea would be we would get new vehicles in, put new radios in those vehicles. The ones we decommission will now become our spares. So the following year, those become the new vehicles. But it's gonna take us a minute to get into that rotation, in an effort not to spend a bunch of money to have a bunch of radios laying around on the original contract.
So why is the sheriff stuff in this budget?
Their radio.
All radios, when the deputy county administration position was created, there's also, he's lead on radio, I think we call radio program manager. So we really need all radio functions to run through one, all the asset inventory. It's kind of a, I hate to say control mechanism, but if he's in charge of it, he can inventory it, he can control it, who's ordering what.
One of the biggest problems we had with the old system, and you had a lot of different entities buying different radios because they were so inexpensive. You know, before a radio, a mobile would cost you around $600. A portable would cost you around $7 or $8. With this new system, that's about 10% of what they're going to cost. So in an effort to maintain inventory and know what we have in our system, the other thing is the other system did not have a networking capacity like this one does. You can't just buy a radio and put it into our system. We have to put it into the network. We have to do all kinds of things to make that work, and have one point of contact just makes sense.
I have a question for Brian. Is there any reason we don't put those into capital, the cost of the radios? I can't remember why we didn't.
No, we could certainly put those into capital because they're actually supporting capital assets.
You don't think that
Capital
you
or
can
carb?
you can draw parallels between
that line
these
number?
being not in capital, and then throwing like the Wi-Fi stuff for the schools where we've said it shouldn't be in capital?
You could. I mean, there's an argument for either way because it is an operational asset, but it's also a capital purchase.
So for the radios, I was just talking with Jennifer, you know, I can't remember if we set a threshold of 25,000 or 50,000, but really, that asset is not gonna have a life of 20 years. I mean, we love it, right? So it would make more sense to put it in CARP, if you're gonna put it in capital asset replacement program versus capital improvement plan, which is more construction based.
Most people are saying 5 to 7 years. I've heard them last as long as 10 to 12. It all depends on where they're stationed. If they're somewhere where they're getting abuse, they're getting dust and dirt and water and mud, maybe not as long. If they're in somebody's console, yeah, they could last 10 years. These radios are a lot like computers. They have all kinds of computer software updates. They have firmware updates. They have all that stuff. That's part of the simulcast, the internet thing that we did, the Smart Connect. That's going to allow us to do those things and put that on there. It's very similar to a cell phone without dying every 2 years like cell phones do.
When we run to dispatches, I know they got a better title. When we run to their budget, are we gonna see offsets down from the previous?
Yes, you will not see radio maintenance in their side.
Yeah, that's the side that I'm saying.
And we put the maintenance in the operational side. If you may recall, a couple of years ago, I was just saying, we had it in our CIP, and the question was, should it be there or not? It was more like, hey, well, let's just get ready for it, because you know it's coming. You can decide where you want to put it at. So it makes sense because that's a maintenance kind of service contract, if you will.
Is the argument to hold it out of CIP, hold water?
I would say put it in the CARP. Is that what we're talking
For
about?
the radios or for the maintenance service contract?
The radios should go into CARP, capital asset replacement, because it's an asset on the books, it depreciates.
Say, wherever computers live is where
Yeah.
that should live.
So if we take that over, that's a $35,700 deduction to that line item, which brings that line item down to $277,487, and that's the cost of the maintenance and the potential additional services.
We're not really accomplishing a whole lot as far as saving, but we're,
I
yeah,
was
I
just-
know, no, that's
Putting
why
it
I
in its
asked. No,
appropriate
that's
bucket.
Perfect, perfect. No,
I should
no,
have done that to
good,
begin
no.
with.
And Mr. Chairman, one thing I'd like to add, we don't have to look at it in FY '26, but in FY '28, the radio system came with a 3-year warranty on microwave equipment. So for the first 3 years of the system, we don't have to worry about microwave warranties or maintenance, things of that nature. In FY '28, that will be an additional 46,229, and right up from there for the life of the SUA, which is 15 years.
40s, what was that number again?
46,229, excuse me, 46,229.
So that's the starting, and then is that an asset we would purchase and it carries through, or that's a payment we would start making?
That's a maintenance contract on the microwave dishes, and if you go into one of these sites, and anybody that wants to go, let me know. But when you go in there, microwave is just not that additional tower. You have dehydrators, you have servers, you have battery packs, you have all this stuff supporting that system. It's pretty invasive, and that is what makes the entire radio system simulcast to have the ability to work.
Brian, what year did you think that was gonna hit?
FY '28.
And where is it? Oh, it's down at the bottom. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm looking at the master control sheet where it really matters over here, but,
Correct, those are covered under warranty, which we're in the first year now, then FY '26 and the '27, and then November of FY '28, that would kick.
okay, good, thank you good, we're tracking that. Moving on, postal service, we just look at, it depends on how many advertisements and things like that we do, so slight increase there. Telecommunications, Jennifer, was a note in there about a partial year, or maybe that's a Brian. Was that,
You're on which line item are you on?
I'm under telecommunications.
Telecommunications, I just have the Verizon and Verizon Wireless combined for $18.86 a month.
We pulled additional,
Last year was partial year budget for this line item.
That's for the fiber link to Churchill.
That's right.
thank you.
Yes.
I couldn't recall yes. So we needed that, as you just heard Brian say, that fiber that pulls off FT Valley goes up to our Churchill radio site. So there's a monthly cost for that. You paid for that capital, but then there's a monthly fee from that point forward. Thank you, sir.
1,800.
All right, no change to our HyperReach amount, or account HyperReach, which I know HyperReach system, we did change that description. Under advertising, we went up 50%. That's just, like, again, cost of advertisement.
Is that cost of advertisement escalation, using the Eagle?
I would imagine some of that's in there. We will have to, Kim and I talk about this often, I'll just say it, we have media group out here. Yes, there is another option to advertise online. I think at some point, initially the board said, let's try out advertising committee vacancies and stuff like that, which we have done through the Mad Rap Recorder, or whatever you're calling yourself now, I'm sorry. And then we're still advertising other things, I think like the public hearing for zoning and things like that are going through the Eagle. If we're gonna go full-fledged one media group, I like for us to do some type of either advertisement in the Eagle to notify we are moving over to somewhere else. Here's the thing, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. You know our demographics, and folks will tell you, I don't have a computer. Well, they sure got a cell phone, but, you wanna pick one that's gonna save us, so we're not double advertising. But primarily, that number is not larger just due to that. It's just depends on the number of public hearings you have, is what drives that, so. In the budget alone, when we,
Damn it, Jim, it's you and me. We're holding public hearings we don't need to do. Good Lord.
yeah,
No.
Going back to advertising, and we're all frustrated with this, but I don't know how many people haven't told me in the last 2 weeks, these are computer savvy people who are online constantly, telling me they didn't know we had a Madison County government website that had all the documentation on. And I'm like, what?
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, it's
why don't you put it in the newspaper? You're
sad.
reading it.
Yeah. So it's just that
Only reading it online.
we'll go wherever you want us to go, but at some point, I think we're gonna have to,
The only reason, we know,
Yeah, it is,
we
isn't it?
know there's a person in the media, in the room that has an affinity for the Eagle. In the same regard, they're not supporting anything we do. We heard Mr. Wingate talk about the median age, and we know that a lot of people read that in there. I think the budget would be appropriate to put in there. The rest of the stuff, I don't want to give them Madison County tax dollars.
All right.
They're not doing anything for us in any way.
now, I will say, while it's an increase over what was budgeted for FY '25, our actuals in FY '24 were 67.25. So that's why we had an increase. We didn't take it to our actuals in FY '24. We thought maybe that cheaper rate will maybe make up the difference of $725. But certainly we can keep it at 6. We can drop it a little lower if you want. But again, it's based on public hearings and historicals. Okay.
Let's keep going.
All right. Insurance, 0. So I'm just gonna skip through these ones that didn't change unless you want me to just stop somewhere, let me know. Books and subscriptions, again, looking at FY '24 actuals, we actually are at 2867, even though we budgeted 2,500. For this year, we're already $5 over. There's increased annual escalation of Civic Plus and our Municode subscriptions. So think about your ordinances or our website that's hosted online. It's subscription-based for those updates and ordinance, so slight increase there. Dues, no increase. Lease office equipment, no. And then tower site lease annual escalations. I don't really want Brian to go into it too much today, but at some time, maybe even when we get to the capital this year, that might be the appropriate time to have Brian to bring out his spreadsheet and let you all really see the numbers he's looked at of leasing over a long-term period of time versus that number versus is it time to start looking at property to build your own. So to be continued, but I think the capital is the best time to look at that payment schedule. But there is a slight increase due to the escalations that are in those lease agreements. Rent expense, I already talked about that. Mileage, we just zeroed that out. I don't even know who budget the $200. We're not using any of that, so we just took it out. Lodging and meals, no increase. Seminars and tuitions. There's 3 of us now, so little increase to trainings. I go to some things occasionally, not often. Kim is required by her employment agreement to get the CMC required training. That's like a 3-year process, and there are classes that are usually one at a time. She's doing great, but we need to allow for that and also leave some monies there available for Brian for any classes that he may need to go to. Opioid settlement expense. I appreciate Jennifer putting this in here. I forgot to capture that. Last year, there's a drug court match, so it would be appropriate to actually put those funds in the budget. We do have an MOU with Orange County, so it's actually capturing that. And office furniture, I'm reducing that by 50%. We have $2,000 in there now. I haven't bought my new desk yet. We'll see. I keep putting the handles and the screws in it, and that's fine. I'm just kind of watching the end of the year before I would even do that. But we reduced it. I've talked, Brian and Kim and I met on all these, so I'm not telling them no on things. We just don't see any need to go beyond that $1,000 number. And certainly, if we don't need it, we won't even spend it. But we left the $1,000 there. Who knows? I think you had a chair or something that looked kind of suspect. Okay.
Good.
Can we back up just a second?
Yes, sir.
For the opioid settlement expenses,
Yes, sir.
we just got $5,000 in, right, Clay? But I mean,
Yes.
what is that expense?
The 5,000 for the supplemental you did last time, or last meeting. So the, I don't have it in front of me.
Well, I guess what I'm just saying, so we have this expense of $33,000.
For this year, I believe all of that is our vending machine and EMS expenses, because we had to have we're doing our own pharmacy now for opioids, the security cameras, all that. We charged it to that, which is good use of funds, because we're having a time trying to figure out how we want to use those. But let me run through the agreements we have.
But any of that money that comes in, that we get from settlement,
by revenue.
can't that be paid for this?
That's what we're using it for. So that 33, you all did a past supplemental appropriation sometime this year for this, and then they ordered it, and we paid with it, with that money. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We do have it in the revenue side as well.
Yes, sir. Good question. The existing agreements we have, Mr. Buchanan, we have, we're part of a cooperative agreement with Encompass. They do the 5 counties. That's more peer support. We have a 5,000, which you did a supplemental for last meeting. That's part of the 16th Judicial District for court docket specialty services, generally dealing with drug court and stuff like that. And then you had the drug court match that we have an MOU with Orange County, I think, for many years now. So we're just trying to find ways to use either direct settlement payments or our OAA grant funds, because at some point it's kind of, not on direct payment, but on the other ones, it's kind of use or lose over a period of time. So, but we're capturing this time. But yes, we'll show on the other side of revenue when we get there.
And they're about to have their 6th graduate.
Yep.
There you go.
Any questions on the county administration budget?
All right, who wants to slash and burn?
Yeah, we have not done that one yet.
Anybody? All good? I don't see anything crazy. When we get to the radio stuff, you're gonna make sure that we point out offsets with the shift, right?
I like
Yeah,
it.
the sheriff, EMS, and the fire department, myself, all had conversations, and they agreed to run it all through me. So that way we can make sure everything's in the same place. I have an inventory sheet that shows me every radio we've got, what programming is on it, and accessories attached to it, so that we can keep that in the back of our heads and have a really good inventory on what we have.
Between last year and this year.
All right, good on this one, let's go find it.
You know, something,
Probably just that one line in my budget.
Jennifer,
Yeah, go ahead.
Jennifer, like the opioid thing, I was just talking with Jim here. So that's gonna have an offset in revenue, right? Is there some way to put a asterisk or a note out to the side of somebody saying this will be offset by revenue or something?
I could, I mean, with grants, we obviously have grant there, so we know that's an offset, but with opioid settlement, we could put opioid settlement expenses from direct payments or from revenue payments, something like that.
Yeah,
Are you thinking for the general public to see?
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Or,
I'll try to come up with a name.
I don't know, just indicated somehow.
Funded by whatever source.
To show that offset.
Uh-huh.
And I appreciate the transparency back here, Judd. I think it's just good for, hell, all of us. Oh, it's a good comment.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, finance.
Would you like
Finally, a
to
budget
read that,
moving in
please,
the right
for
direction.
finance?
Yeah, I will mention on the county administrator budget, I broke it down. The radio tower encompasses $363,537 of that budget. And the rest of the $890,000, I think it was, is truly county administrator budget.
All right.
Sorry.
Good.
Sorry.
Yeah. Rude to her.
Okay, let me make this bigger. All right, mine doesn't have quite as many categories. The top section of mine is related to our auditing and accounting services expenses. And for fiscal year '26, I have increased slightly on the auditing services, mainly because when Mary sold her practice, the rates went up. So pre-audit team is a little bit more expensive. However, to help offset that, I reduced the accounting services. I don't think we need nearly as much, or well, I took it down by 3,000. I think I could take that down even more. slightly more, so I'm considering that, but no more than the 15. And then the valuation services, that is what it is, $3,000. So that line item really is it's a net zero between the 2 years. I just moved some money around.
But Robinson Farmer Cox is under auditing services?
Correct, yes. Going down to the salaries and wages, full-time and part-time, you're going to see a difference based on 3% COLA, first of all, is added in here, but I have moved my pay down to the part-time line item. And the savings for the county is about $20,000 with me going part-time. Just wanted to mention that. Going down to the FICAs, they are what they are, and same with all of the VRS and benefits. That all calculates off of the salary and wages. And with my status being part-time, 30 hours, I have health insurance with the county, so I am still showing up under the health insurance line item. The only thing in the health insurance line item that is increased, obviously, is the renewal. So the 3.9% renewal is in this $56,498 of health insurance. So the group life insurance, workers' comp, those, again, I get those numbers from Tilly. Let me go down to accounting services. Accounting services, I don't think we will really need to use that. I think that line item was mainly used in the past with some of the ERP implementations and consulting that you had with some of the companies like Cherry Beckert, maybe, that helped oversee those.
That was also Mr. Fry's.
Yes, and Bobby Fry. And then, so that line item, I was tempted to take it down even more, and I probably will do so, but for now I have 5,000 in there. Let's see, going down to testing. I think everything else, the increase on the smart sheet, use of smart sheet, oh goodness, shoot, sorry, there we go. The smart sheet subscription we're using now, where we use Dynamic View, and we can also show the finance dashboard. Those licenses in Dynamic View are added here to that line item. We increased postage slightly, and some office supplies went up a little bit as well, and that's kind of looking at historical actuals. And then I took down a few items, as you can see there, related to subscriptions and dues. And then the last one to mention is that we did get a new postage machine that we had to get leased, and so that's the lease payments and overage charges on the copy machine factored in there for an overall budget reduction of around 4%. 3% for both. So I think that will probably go closer to 5% after I look at a couple more of those two line items. I just want to get maybe one more month of actuals in.
Yeah, let's go ahead and just zero out that accounting services then.
That would put us, that would knock it down substantially.
I think so too, unless you can think of any other, I was trying to think of any other consulting with accounting.
Who pays Mary Earhart, or whatever that is called now? Does that come out of the treasurer's?
No, that comes out of the auditing services up here.
So as long as we feel comfortable with that,
Yeah.
I leave that up to you.
I think I'll take it down to maybe $1,000. I don't know. I really don't know what we could see in it. So I don't even think we'll have much, but that should come down. Any questions for me on any of these items?
Ms. Warren, just going back to what you just said, if not being really able to foresee any need for those services, but in case something came along where we needed them and that money's not budgeted, where would we draw that from?
Contingency.
Yeah, super easy. No big deal. All right, anybody have anything? Everybody good? All right. Anything else you want to throw?
That's all for today. I felt like doing these would get you ahead of schedule, because after looking
No,
at
it's
the agenda,
good.
it's like,
It's
why
good.
not cover these?
It's good. Anybody else have anything you wanna cover?
No, sir.
All right, back to public comment. All right, no closed session, what would y'all like to do? Motion made and seconded. Further discussion, hearing none. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you all.